Welcome to Beyond the Fundamentals. In this video, we're going to talk about so what if the Bible's true? So what if the Bible's true? And thank you for joining us. We can't do these videos without your support. If you'd like to support the channel, please do so in the description. The links are in the description below if you want to support via PayPal or Venmo. So we really appreciate the support. That those funds go to buy equipment and to supplant the time that we use to produce these. And that time has been hard to come by lately, so I apologize for the lack of videos lately. But I do have a lot of things that I want to get to you, a lot of information I want to get to you, a lot of thought provocation that I would like to partake in with you. So what if the Bible is true? And my microphone fell. I keep having to tighten it up. The claim, the Bible's true. The Bible is the Word of God. Think about what it means to somebody who doesn't believe it. Think about what it means to somebody who not necessarily doesn't believe it, but is generally disinterested. Okay? The Bible is true. What does that mean? Okay, the Bible's true. There are lots of different groups of people who say the Bible is true, and those people all do very different things, and they believe very different things, and they behave in some different ways. Okay? When you say the Bible's true, you put yourself in the mind of somebody who's not a Christian and who is not sympathetic necessarily to Christianity, or who is ambivalent to or apathetic to it. Okay? And what might go through their mind when you say the word Christian or Bible or anything like that, they might think of anything from snake handlers in South Carolina or North Carolina, people going to church and, handling snakes in the middle of church service, and a bunch of hype and crazy music and all-day church services, and, who knows what goes through their mind. Or they might have something in mind, like they might think of the Catholic Church, who conducted 1,000 years of dark years where they systematically burned people at the stake and, invested and engaged in torture, conducting inquisitions against people for theological disagreements. And if people are going to use the Bible for things like that, it would make sense that somebody would not want to have anything to do with it. So if the Bible is valuable for some reason other than those things, it is up to us to make it so, to present it as so, or to help people to see that. All right? So claiming that it's true it's really an empty claim. It really doesn't mean anything. It doesn't convey any practical value. Of course, you're a Christian. You think the Bible's true. Nobody cares. Get a life. See you. Okay? So we need to find something else to say. So what I want to do is I want to explore this issue. And we go to the next slide here. And what we're looking at I'm looking at Romans 12:2 and Ephesians 4:16. There's a transformation in Romans 12:2. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. We need to show that the Word of God, other than just claiming that it is true, we need to show that it has transformational value. And the end state goal of the transformational value, pressing toward the mark, one of those things is like to be the kind of person that can participate in Ephesians 4:16. From whom the whole body fitly joined together, compacted by that which every joint supplieth, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, maketh the increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. As a Christian, can you edify other people in love? Can you edify other people? So what our desired end state for the goal of transformation is to be a wise person who can edify other people into becoming wise people. Help them fight that transformational battle out of love, okay? That's what we want to do. So if you claim the Bible is true, what if I held up a gun and I said, this gun is true? What does that mean? What's true about it? That it's black, that it's made of metal, and, what's true about it? That a deadly projectile can come out of the front of it? So it's like something like that. A gun is not good, or it depends on what you do with it, right? You can use a gun to defend, to deter, or you can use it to inflict harm needlessly for selfish reasons. You can do horrible things and you can do great things with a gun. So to claim it's true, so think about something like that. Let's take it somewhere else. let's say that the encyclopedia is true. And I know you may say, okay, the encyclopedia has bias in it, or maybe the encyclopedia needs to be updated, but set that aside for a second and let's just take it at face value. Let's just say the encyclopedia is true. Encyclopedia Britannica is true. Let's just say that, okay? Now, so what? I mean, a lot of people have owned encyclopedias. I know a lot of people don't anymore because of the internet, but there used to be encyclopedia salesmen, and all kinds of people would fill their bookshelves with all the volumes of the encyclopedia so that you could go look stuff up, and then you would read about it, and then you would know. Now, would anybody just sit there and read through the entire encyclopedia? I know there are some people who do that, but by and large, do most people do that? No, they don't. What do they use it for? They use it to go look things up that are what? That are relevant. Relevant, right? You remember having those conversations with your parents? You're like, Mom, Dad, what's this? Go look it up, because they figure that's the best way for you to learn something. So you go look it up, and then maybe you learn something. But it wasn't relevant to you. There was nothing pushing you to go open up the encyclopedia to learn about whatever it was. Do frogs have warts or whatever? What's the difference between a frog and a toad? What's an aardvark, okay? Whatever that question was, why is the sky blue? It wasn't salient or relevant to you to go look that up until you had the question. And so there's the encyclopedia, there's all that information sitting on the shelf, and then eventually you come across a point in time where some of that information becomes relevant to you and you see it as useful and you seek it out, okay? So we're going to have this huge focus on relevance when we go through this. Now, I know on this channel we deal with Calvinism a lot. And I hate to say this, but the surface issues of dealing with Calvinism aren't enough. We have to go back to first principles thinking. Back to first principles thinking. Back to what is the Bible. So we'll go through these notes that I have here. When you say the Bible's true, okay, you hear people say, the Bible's not, it doesn't contain the Word of God. It is the Word of God. This Bible's true from cover to cover, and I even believe the cover. That kind of, so what? Okay? If the encyclopedia, let's go back to epistemics here, epistemology. If something is true or false, it is true or false. You cannot willfully assert something to be true that isn't true. So therefore, like making a strong statement and grunting about it, oh, the Bible's true. If it's not true, that doesn't make it true, okay? If you want to say that about the encyclopedia, say the encyclopedia has incorrect information in it. Like grunting and faithing really hard doesn't make it true, all right? And we have a bad concept of faith in Christianity where we think, I say we, in general, Christians have this idea that they can use willful assertion. They call it faith. It's different. To take non-epistemically sound propositions and faith them into truth. I believe it's true, therefore it's true. And no wonder the atheists make fun of us and come up with things like, the flying spaghetti monster to make fun of the concept of God, your sky daddy, things like that. No wonder they do that. Because we got the wrong concept of faith. Now, in our last Zoom session, we talked about the concept of faith and how faith is committing in love to something. The word believe, the root word of believe is love. The leave part of believe comes from the word love. Beloved, like beloved, okay? To believe something is to commit in faith to it, to faithfully commit in love to it. And think of it more like the building of a bridge than just instead of agreeing with a bunch of propositions that bam make you converted and regenerated, think of it as the building of a bridge where if I faithfully commit to the vision of the engineer, the bridge will happen and I will play my part in bringing it to pass. And the end state, it may not be a bridge. It may be your personal transformation. It may be the personal transformation of a loved one that you can help bring about. Just transforming into that wiser person, helping somebody else transform into that wiser person to your second self, that aspirational second self that is capable of wise being, okay? Wisdom isn't something you have, it's something you are, it's something you be. All right? I know that's not good grammar, but it's a being thing. You want to transfer into it. Honesty isn't something you have as a possession, it's something that you are and something that you continually do, all right? So you want to transform into that wise person. You commit in love to that transformation. And you commit in love to the fact that Jesus Christ is the proper basis and the catalyst of that transformation, okay? Believing that the best second self that you can possibly be comes about because of Jesus Christ. A lot of our stuff that we believe in Christianity has to do with things that are not testable, not demonstrable to outsiders, okay? You want to make a statement about your conversion experience, okay? Well, that doesn't mean a lot to other people, okay? You just became persuaded of a bunch of propositions as far as they're concerned. Nothing else happened to you, all right? You became part of an in-group. Those kinds of things. And people get, especially when you start to study cognitive science and epistemology, you realize that people start to believe things for a large host of reasons other than actually being convinced that they're true epistemically. And most likely, most people who profess Christianity did not come to the conclusions of Christianity in epistemically sound manners, and the atheists know it. All right? So we want to try to change this around a little bit. We want to open a dialogue about some of these things. If the Bible is of value, at the top of the slide, if the Bible is of value, then it retains between its covers some kind of potentiality for mankind, for communities, for societies, for individuals. And the question is, what is that potentiality? Okay? What is that potentiality? What can adherence or application of the Word of God do for you, or to your society, or to your community? What good can it do? Is it going to bring about inquisitions? Is it going to bring about witch hunts? Is it going to bring about snake handling? Nobody wants that, okay? So you have to find a way to distinguish yourself from those things and other things, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. So when you say the Bible is true, what is the mental end state of claiming that the Bible is true? You see this question right here? What are you thinking? And over here on the left, in a little bit of a blue color, you see what I think are a couple of good things. And over here in the gray on the right, I think you see what I think are a couple of, a few bad things, or a few not great things that pass through our minds. For example, are we trying to attract other people or persuade other people to consider the Bible as true? And I have that in gray. It doesn't mean that's wrong, but what are we trying to do? Are we trying to get them to accept a set of propositions that you have reduxed from the Bible? And when you accept those propositions, now you qualify as thinking the Bible is true. And then what does that do for that person? Okay, what does it do for them? Have you in-grouped them? Now you can claim them as a conquest? Look, they agree with us. Well, they're one of ours now. It's glorying in their flesh. All right, right beside that. What about a verbal assent to a shared participation in an exclusive subjective experience? What do you mean by that? Like your conversion experience, being born again. Okay, if you were born again, you have some kind of experience that goes along with that. You want other people to verbally assent to also having an experience like you claim to have? Is that what you want when you claim the Bible is true? All right, look down here in the gray and toward the middle of the slide. Do you want compliance? Now that is a big thing right there. There is a little demon inside everybody that wants to be the person who can enforce the rules and make everybody else comply. You'll see it in fundamentalist Christianity with the little standards and the rules and the convictions, and you're not either a true Christian or you're not spiritual if you don't have the same standards and convictions that I have, that kind of nonsense. You see it in politics all the time, okay? Where you have to agree with our side of the politics and stuff, or you're not what? You need to comply. And now under COVID, you really see it. Lots of Karens out there trying to make people wear masks and stuff, and they just love the opportunity to be the person to try to tell somebody else that they have to do something. They just love the opportunity to be the person that tells somebody else that they have to do something. And you have to realize that even though we think the Bible's true and all that kind of stuff, that the Bible serves as that opportunity for a lot of stupid people, okay? So there's a lot of stupid people who are they're looking for an opportunity that they can use to be the person to bark the orders that other people have to follow. Like when you're at the store, I walked into the VA, and I had my mask, because when you go into the VA, you have to wear a mask, and I have to go to the VA, all right? So I've got my mask like this, and I'm about to put it on as I'm leaving the elevator, walking out of the elevator into the main area where they check you in. And there's somebody right there. As soon as they saw me, sir, would you please put your mask on your face? Which was what I was already doing, okay? Now, a lot of people get upset with that, and you can get your ego all involved and yell at the person and stuff like that. But I just think the person's stupid. That I know what that personality type is. That is an immature demonic child inside that person that just craves an opportunity to tell other people to do something. All right. And you have to realize there are a lot of people who have that same problem, who are using the Bible or Christianity as that opportunity. You have to do this. You have to do that. Trying to get people to comply. The Bible's true. You have to do this. So compliance with what? Compliance with prescribed behaviors. You have to do this, do that. Don't do this, don't do that. Don't smoke, don't chew, don't run around with those who do. You got to do what I tell you to do. Glory in their flesh, like Galatians says. Willful assertion of prescribed propositions. So here's our statement of faith. The Bible's true. And what they really have in mind when they say that is you have to agree with all the things that our church thinks is true, which I dare say are not actually biblical, no matter what denomination you're in. The more I've been looking into epistemology, the more I realize the stuff that I myself have been putting in statements of faith have no business being there whatsoever. Compliance with what? Paradigmatic compliance. Here's our paradigm. Here's the meme complex that we believe in. Nobody thinks that way because they're not epistemically informed. Okay, but essentially what they want, they have this meme complex to which they comply and adhere. And when they say the Bible is true, what they really want is for other people to adhere to their meme complex too. They're trying to get conquests. And then in-group conformity. If you want to be part of an in-group, in this in-group, you have to agree to X, Y, Z. Okay, compliance. In compliance-based in-group threshold of entry, if you will. Okay, so every kind of in-group has a threshold of entry, and that threshold, that barrier of entry can be high or low, and oftentimes, especially in Christianity, it's compliance with a certain set of propositions and behaviors. Okay, and when people say the Bible is true, that's usually what they have in mind. Now, this also, saying this, I have a little arrow here, and then it points down to this idea also plays in selfishly to in-group ranking needs. So the person saying the Bible is true, they're already part of the in-group, but they want to be considered higher in the hierarchy of competence or prestige or power within that in-group. Okay, and the more people they persuade to comply with the in-group under the guise of the Bible's true, which is just a guise, it's just a vehicle for enforcing in-group compliance. The more people that they can persuade to that, the better they are looked on by the in-group, and the better chance they will get of being promoted within the in-group to somewhere higher in the hierarchy that the in-group employs to regulate itself. All right? And now people don't know that when they're persuading other people that that's really what's going on in their head. That's really what they're trying to accomplish, but that's what they're trying to accomplish. Exclusion of others. Somebody complained about me gulping coffee. I'll try to do it quietly, but it's my thing. All right. Exclusion of others. You say the Bible's true. They're excluding other people who don't think it's true. All right. What you're trying to separate yourself from other people. It's an emphasis of a great separator. Now, a lot of groups have these great separators. In other words, I was in a fraternal organization in college. And one of the statements in the fraternal organization is, what you are, I once was. What I am, you will never be. All right. So a lot of in-groups have these kinds of statements and that kind of sentiments. Okay. Now, the Calvinists have one like this. Catholics and the Calvinists, they have this thing called original sin. And that is a great separator. That is, I was sinful like you, but God regenerated me. And if you're not elect, you can never be regenerated. So there's this high threshold of entry into the in-group, which you have no control over. You are completely at the mercy of somebody overcoming that threshold for you. Okay? like with Calvinists and total depravity and original sin. And that threshold of entry it's like an in-group control mechanism that they can use. And like for the social justice warriors, their version of original sin is privilege, like white privilege, stuff like that. That is, privilege it's an unredeemable sin, and you just have it, and there's nothing you can do. And the only thing that can make you acceptable to the in-group is if they choose to accept you. Because you're evil and wicked and bad, because you're privileged, and therefore there's no reason for them to accept you, so it's only by their good graces if they ever do, but you're still not as good as them, you see? And so that's another tendency of humans to try to have that high threshold of entry into the in-group that nobody's good for unless they're selected, okay? And that's everywhere. It's not just Calvinism. And by the way, Calvinism... It is among the... We'll talk about that in a minute. Or it's a statement of superiority. The Bible is true. You're basically saying I'm superior to those who don't think it's true. But it doesn't... you're not saying what you're going to do with it. It's like saying the encyclopedia is true or this gun is true. What are you going to do with it? All right? So what about over here on the left? So now instead of... Over here in the blue, you have these little blue boxes over here. And instead of claiming that the Bible is true, what if I say that the Bible will help you achieve your potential? So I'm not controlling groups of people. I'm not doing in-group participation or anything like that. Now, the Bible could help a community achieve its potential. It could help a society achieve its potential. But it could also help an individual achieve its potential. So I'm not trying to control you. I'm not trying to do anything for you to make you comply with my in-group, either propositional beliefs or behaviors or anything like that. I'm just telling you that there's value in this book in that it helps you achieve potential. And if we talk about none other verification measure, it is true enough for that reason for starters, okay? It'll help you achieve some kind of potentiality. What is it you're trying to do, Mr. non-Bible believer, Mr. atheist, or Mr. whatever, Mr. just apathetic person who's trying to go through life? What is it that you're trying to do? And here's how the Bible can help you get there. Okay? Can you make a statement like that? And then let them taste and see it for themselves. And we'll talk more about that in a second. For some reason, now that I'm filming, everybody wants to call me and text me right now. So... And also, it could be an invitation to explore and share insights. Like, this Bible is interesting. Instead of saying the Bible's true, which fine, but that doesn't really have any, relevance value because you don't know what you're going to do with it yet, right? And a lot of people claim it's true and they all disagree. So it really doesn't mean anything to an outsider. But how about, I think the Bible's interesting and I would like to share insights with other people who are familiar with its content. Now, there's something you can do, okay? So find ways to poke around. Making truth claims about the Bible is, it doesn't communicate anything to outsiders, people who are outside of already believing the Bible. It doesn't communicate anything to them, all right? So we need to find out, kind of like what Paul did in Acts 17, we need to find out how to communicate the Bible's value to people in a practical way. Now, I know we can make metaphysical claims. Well, it saves your soul and then to go to heaven and not hell. I know all that. But remember, they don't understand, know, or believe any of that yet. So we need to start with something more basic. We need to find something that we share, that we have in common with them already, that we can show its value. Then we can start expand into other areas. If you can trust it for something small, like trust grows with things and people. Right? You got to start off small. You got to earn people's trust. Present the Bible in a way that it starts earning somebody's trust as true rather than just making this claim that people either binarily accept or reject. Start introducing them to the idea somehow. All right? Now, let me take this. Let me narrow this down. I come from a background where we understand that the KJV Bible is to be believed and that everything else published since 1881 has some serious problems with it, okay? Now, of the other, let me show you, I have a list of people here, and this is not exhaustive by any means, but it's exemplary. Among people who say the King James Bible is true, and I'm not trying to have a Bible version issue debate here, what I'm just trying to do is show different people who make truth claims about something but disagree on major things, okay? Baptists, like non-Calvinist Baptists. I have to say non-Calvinist there because a lot of Baptist churches have been infiltrated by stealth Calvinists. Okay, so I'm talking about non-Baptist Calvinists. A lot of them, not all of them, and not all of any of these groups necessarily say or believe this, but in all these groups, people under these labels, there are a lot of Baptists who believe the King James Bible. There are a lot of Pentecostals who believe the King James Bible. A lot of those are, apostolic oneness, holiness Pentecostals. They believe the King James Bible is true. There are a lot of Calvinists who are King James only. Now, as you know, I debate Calvinism all the time. I'm opposed to Calvinism. I do videos that expose Calvinism all the time. And there are staunch Calvinists who claim to share my position on the truth of the King James Bible. Okay? So why do we both think something's true when we're believing very different things and acting in very different ways? The one person I have in mind is a very vitriolic, hateful, mean person, okay? And the other Calvinists that I've known personally who were King James only are now atheists, okay? So that is your fruit for you. But, Calvinism, I'll tell you this, Calvinism would be a beautiful, elegant religion if it wasn't for their attempt to try to claim to be Christians or that the Bible is true. If they just dropped that, then Calvinism by itself and of itself as its own thing would be a beautiful, elegant thing. And it'd be kind of fun to study and explore. But the variance of claiming to believe the Bible, but bringing this Manichaean Gnosticism in and imposing it onto it, you have this very two different, they claim the Bible's true. People who aren't Calvinists claim the Bible's true, have very different beliefs. Which means that claiming the Bible is true doesn't practically mean anything. Look at how it pans out. Seventh-day Adventists claim the KJV is true. Mormons claim the KJV is true where it's translated correctly. And they say that phrase. That's their official position. The King James Bible is true where it's translated correctly. And all the things that disagree, they get to choose all the places that aren't translated correctly. And it has absolutely nothing to do with higher or lower textual criticism. Just, it disagrees with our doctrine. Anyway, so they claim that the Bible's true. And then there's Trinitarians that claim the King James is true. There are non-Trinitarians who claim that the King James Bible is true. So all these different, how many do I have here? 7 different labels here believe that the King James Bible is true, or people from these groups believe, but they all believe very different things. So what does it mean to say that it's true? It means nothing. The claim itself means nothing to people, and you have to know that. Which version is the true version? Well, once you find out what's true, what good does it do to say that it's true? You see? So we're going to talk about that. So what are the challenges that we have? What this does, down at the bottom, this clearly demonstrates that merely claiming something to be true is not an actionable or practically meaningful claim. You have to get that. So you have to find a way to distinguish yourself from some of these other groups, okay? And as a preacher, as a Christian, as a pastor, some of you are like out there, you got to distinguish yourself from these other people and make sure that your message is distinct from theirs. And then you got Calvinists who are constantly trying to, what people do when you have rivalrous dynamics, people who oppose you are constantly trying to map you to labels that everyone agrees is bad, okay? So everyone in mainstream Christianity agrees that Mormons are bad, okay? They're a cult. They, Seventh-day Adventists, they're bad. So Calvinists will try to make these statements that try to map you over to things. You're Arminian, you're Pelagian. That's what the Mormons believe and that kind of stuff like that. And the Mormons have some strange beliefs, like I'm drinking coffee right now, okay? And Mormons don't drink, they don't take caffeine. They don't drink caffeine. They don't drink alcohol. And they don't, and they have some strange beliefs about kolob. They have to wear, there's some of them that wear special underwear that they can never take the special underwear off. And I think they're supposed to clean under it or around it or something like that. Some kind of holy underwear. Some crazy stuff going on. And they all claim that the King James Bible is true. And as a person who's trying to distinguish yourself from these things, it's interesting what you do, especially like as a YouTube person. I'm trying to make videos and I'm trying to give information that's helpful to people, but I'm also trying to give information that seems salient and relevant enough for people to click on the videos and watch them, because that helps the rankings go up, and it has to do with the sustainability of the ability to do this kind of thing. All right. So I'm constantly trying to work on stuff like that. It made me sick the other day. I start, every once in a while I'll look up videos about ideas for how to do YouTube better, how to do better videos, what to do to get more viewers, what to do to get more, donors and things like that, just to try to make this more sustainable so I can spend more time doing it. And then I looked up some of the best YouTube content out there, and it's crazy. I spend hours and hours and hours putting together content so that I can present something that's useful, and it's difficult to grow an audience. It grows very slowly. And I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, if you just do this, and this, and I know if I had 168 free hours per week and $20,000 a month, I could do all those things you want to do, but I don't have that. All right. I got a job, and I'm trying to squeeze these things in at the same time. And then I come across, there's like these 22-year-old Instagram supermodels who make YouTube videos of just trying on different lingerie and underwear. And they get 2.2 million views in 1 week. I'm like, how do you compete with that? They don't have to study for anything. They don't have to do anything. They just have to go on camera trying on different kinds of underwear. All kinds of different bathing suits and underwear. And people watch by the millions. I'm like, man, if I had something to draw like that. And then it kind of gives me an idea, We could use this as an outreach mechanism. We could grow the channel and use this as an outreach mechanism. What we could do, like Calvinists are always accusing us of being Mormons, what we could do is we could drink coffee. We could pour some amaretto in the coffee so that it's got alcohol in it. And then we could have little segments of these videos where we have 22-year-old Instagram models trying on different kinds of underwear. And all those three things together would prove to the Calvinists that we're not Mormons. And that would be kind of an outreach plan to show them that, hey, it's not so bad after all. We're really not like the Mormons, because we have, what you think are something in common with them, which I don't know what those things are. Obviously, you can see my marketing plan is stellar. It's killer. It's killer. We're going to make this happen, right? So what the difference is, what separates you from somebody else who claims the Bible is true? It's interpretation. And the interpretation includes application. And then we're going to talk about relevance in a couple minutes too. You need to understand, you need to be able to speak of the Bible in terms of how it's interpreted, and you need to be able to speak of the Bible in terms of why and how it is relevant, okay? So we use the inductive method. And what the inductive method is, you have to understand that with the inductive method, you have a completely blank slate, clear mind, nothing. Imagine you have a sheet of notepaper and there's nothing on it. And you say, these is the list of my beliefs. Okay, these are the things that I think the Bible is saying. And don't even call them beliefs yet. I'm not going to say that I believe what the Bible says. I'm going to start with, first of all, here's what the Bible says. I'm going to observe it first, and we're going to formulate our beliefs. Let's take another phone call. So you have this blank sheet of paper, and we're not, you don't take something the Bible says and automatically write it down as one of your beliefs. You don't go there yet. We write it down as something that you've observed the Bible to say. And the only thing that goes on the sheet of paper of things that you've observed the Bible to say are things that you observe the Bible to say. That's it. You don't start with any axioms. You don't have any presuppositions. You don't have any beliefs beforehand. That's the inductive method. You only induce what it says, and you induce absolutely nothing more. That's very important. I had somebody comment on the YouTube channel recently, and they said, well, I don't have to do all that because I just learn what the correct doctrines are, and then I go back and find them in Scripture. No! I couldn't believe the guy wasn't joking. That is absolutely the wrongest thing you could possibly do. Do not do that. It's the opposite of what we want to do. That is why we're all in such a problem that we have in Christianity. Is because people do that. They learn the doctrines before they learn the Bible. Forget the doctrines. Forget them. Wad them up, throw them in the trash can, put them in the shredder, burn them, have a statement of faith burning at your church, get rid of all that nonsense, and just go back to the Bible. Go back to first principles and reconstruct this thing back from scratch using first principles, okay? with two axioms. We believe that the Bible is true and that it came from God. Then we're going to start observe and that God can't lie. So the Bible's true, right? So then we're going to start collecting. We're going to start a collection of things that we observe it to say. Okay? It says X, Y, Z, and that's all the observation is just what it says. No conclusions about beliefs, not trying to apply it yet, nothing like that, okay? That's very important, because if the Bible is true and it has the power to transform you, the inductive method, starting with what I just explained, the inductive method is the way to get a pure dose of Scripture without diluting it with any external nonsense from any other kind of system of belief. So it is a very intentional goal to try on purpose to get rid of everything else that you think and believe, so that the transformational power of Scripture can be isolated and injected into you in its pure form to have the maximum effectiveness. Because everything else that you attach to what the book says, it degrades the effectiveness of Scripture. So the inductive method is designed to help you, give you the tools to strip away all the other things that you think the Bible says, which it actually don't, or doesn't say, or especially all the things that you think the Bible teaches, which it doesn't say. We do not deal with what the Bible teaches or is presumed to teach. We deal with what Scripture says, not with what it is presumed to teach, okay? As soon as you start hearing somebody talking about, well, the Bible teaches X, Y, Z, just stop them right there. We're not going to talk about what the Bible teaches. Let's talk about what it says. Let's talk about what it says. And let's draw the line right there. So the inductive method, you start with observation. There's three steps to it. And then you go to interpretation. That's when you start to decide what it means. Okay? And the meaning has to go to the original intent. What was the original author trying to say to the original audience? And what was the circumstances under which he was trying to say that? And what was the common mythos or understanding of the people that might affect how they would understand what's being said? That's very helpful. And then after you get those down, and the more observations you have, the better your interpretation is going to be. After you get those down, then you start to think about, now how does this apply to me today? All right? So the interpretation, the inductive method, is not presented as the correct or true method of interpretation, but it's presented as the most helpful and transformative method. It's the thing that gets the Bible down to its concentrated form that can do the most good for you. That's why we use it. So if the Bible has value, then the methodology of interpretation must emphasize what the Bible has to offer and nothing else. Otherwise, we are saying that the other things that we have in mind, like your paradigmatic thinking, your Baptist statement of faith, your Calvinism, your Seventh-day Adventist belief, we are thinking, if we take those to Scripture, we are saying that those things are more valuable than what the Bible says on its own. But the inductive method is designed to help you accomplish exactly that, which is to that here, maybe I should change what this says, but is to emphasize Scripture and nothing else, is that we're trying to do here. All right? We emphasizing what the Bible has to offer and nothing else. So the inductive method is designed to help you accomplish that, emphasis of Scripture and nothing else. So now let's go into relevance. When something becomes relevant, you know, there's so much information that you're surrounded by right now. Okay, the color of the walls, the timbre of the sounds and the ambient noises that are around you, and the warmth of the light, and the temperature variances between your air conditioner and all the things that cause heat in your house or around you or wherever you are. There's all kinds of information that gets zoned out, that gets tuned out. Okay. And if something were to happen to you, like say you're walking down a sidewalk and a wild animal jumps out in front of you, I promise you, you're not thinking about the flowers and the butterflies at that point, even though they're there and that information is available to you. It is not salient to you. It is not relevant to you. You are focused on one thing, and that is what's going to happen between me and this wild animal in the next few seconds. And that's all you know. That's all you think about. And you're not thinking about whether or not you left the stove on or what happened to you when you were 3. You're not thinking about any of that stuff. All that information is available to you, but it is not relevant to you for that moment. Okay? So there is something that can cause the wrong things to be relevant to you. For example, what if you were conditioned in such a way to where a wild animal jumps out in front of you that could tear you to pieces, but for whatever reason, you're focused on the butterfly? That is the wrong thing to be worried about. Okay, that is the wrong thing to be relevant to you at that moment. The most pressing matter is the wild animal. Okay, now maybe the wild animal's there and there's a cliff behind you. Now you got two very relevant things. Just a lot of bad can happen. So what are the things that cause us to make the wrong things relevant? Of all the data that's available to you, why am I focused on what I'm doing right now as being relevant rather than, the speed of the processor and the camera that I'm using or the color of the walls in front of me? I'm not thinking about any of that. I'm thinking about the content because that's what's relevant to this moment. Even though all those other things are genuinely true information that are available, I don't need to interact with that information right now because it's not the most relevant thing based on what I'm trying to do, which takes us to what makes something relevant. The basis of what you're trying to do is what makes something relevant. And if you're trying to do the right thing, then you will tend to select the correct things as being relevant. The thing that brainwashes you into making the wrong things relevant, all right? Like causes you to focus on the butterfly when you should be focusing on the wild animal in front of you. Rivalrous dynamics. That's what it is. And rivalrous dynamics is instead of collaborating to generate a good collective mind about something and collect all the information from people, we get rivalrous and we weaponize information. Then we strategically present information to win in a rivalrous dynamic, and information becomes relevant to you based on its capacity to be victorious in a rivalrous dynamic rather than based on whether or not it's epistemically sound or true. Because if you have somebody that is very well schooled in a paradigm versus somebody who is very earnestly interested in base reality, the guy who is, like in a debate, the guy who is very well schooled in the paradigm will seem to be superior, will seem to win, will seem to be victorious, and will be selected for by groups of people, even though that's not the best thing that should be done. But the rivalrous dynamic puts you in that mode, and then we have modal confusion. We're in the wrong mode when it comes to earnestly endeavoring to discover the facts of reality. And an earnest endeavor to discover the facts of reality does not perform well in a rivalrous situation because it's in discovery mode, not in rivalrous mode. And we are selecting for things that we think are true, not for things that we think will win or be persuasive to a bunch of mind-numb people in a rivalrous dynamic with an audience and that kind of thing. So rivalrous dynamics introduce a lot of unnecessary confusion about relevance selection. It causes you to choose the butterfly instead of the wild animal. Rivalrous dynamics make things salient that are not necessarily relevant, especially outside of a very narrow, limited scope of consideration. What do you mean by that? Like Calvinism, for example. Calvinism is very relevant to a lot of you because you've been affected by it. But I think you know as well as I do, if you bring up the issue of Calvinism to most people, even most Christians, they're like, what is that again? Is that the people who believe this, this, and this, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong? It's not relevant to them because they haven't encountered it. But for some of you, it's torn your church apart. It's torn your family apart. Your church has been invaded. There are all kinds of, stealth demonic people trying to dissuade you from believing what Scripture says. That is your experience, and so it is very relevant to you. All right? So within that relatively narrow scope, all these things are relevant to you, but for somebody outside who hasn't been exposed to it yet, they don't know to make that issue isn't salient to them, much less relevant, because something has to become salient before it can become relevant. And salient means to stand out, to be noticeable, to catches your attention. Hey, look at that thing over there. You at least know it's there. And then you make a relevance judgment about it. Okay? So rivalrous dynamics cause you to think things are relevant based on a narrower scope that is less connected to genuine reality, which diminishes your sense of meaning in life and your capacity to have meaningful connections in life. And so what we want to do is engage in an earnest endeavor to discover the facts of reality in a non-rivalrous way so that the rivalry itself doesn't get used against us to cause us to think things are relevant that aren't. Now that takes us into the consideration of how things go from being information, whether true or not. Because when the wild animal jumps out in front of you, the butterfly being there, it's true, but it shouldn't be salient, and for the immediate concerns, it shouldn't be relevant, okay? So there's information, and information somehow becomes salient information. Now, what makes something salient to you? In other words, what makes it stand out as noticeable to you, okay? And then of the things that stand out as noticeable to you, like the wild animal, what makes the noticeable thing stand out as relevant? And then how do you prioritize what is most relevant to you? Well, that depends on what you're trying to do, okay? If you're trying to stay alive, then the wild animal jumping out in front of you is a pretty relevant thing to know about, all right? And that would be prioritized above anything else that might be relevant to you at the moment, unless there are other equally dangerous things happening at the same time. Like maybe there's an active shooter and you're on a tightrope or some other thing. There would be a lot of relevant things at one time. Then you'd probably not survive. But you need to, of the things that are relevant, you need to prioritize the things that are relevant, what's most relevant, and then the determination of what gets prioritized as relevant or more relevant than something else depends on what you're trying to do. And there are two directions of consideration to go. And it looks like I'm doing little tiny butterfly wings here, but if I stretch my arms out, it doesn't go in the camera. So trying to work with that. So two directions to go. In one direction, you have, so I'm going to use the word correlation because the word true is something that, or corresponds. The word true means something that corresponds with reality. Okay, that's the definition that we're going to use. Or you could use correlation. A truth is a correlation to reality. It's data that has a correlation to reality. All right, so you could have considerations of correlations to the origins of like where everything has come from, or the like God or metaphysics, or the emanation of the logos of information from wherever the center of the cosmos is. Whatever that is, you have that in mind. On the other hand, you have a correlation. You're considering your correlation to values and to transformational aspirations. You're trying to become something better than what you are, right? Including, you want to have, and those things include what you're aspiring to. You want to have more meaningful connections with people. You want to have more meaningful progress toward your aspirational self. Like, what is the best possible Kevin that could possibly exist in the future? And so I want to have meaningful progress toward that Kevin, to become more like him, whatever he is, whatever that goal is in my mind. And then I want to have meaningful movement toward my being goals, all right? I want to be wiser, right? So, and that has to do with the second one too. So something will stand out as relevant to me if it helps me to connect to the emanation of truth from base reality or origins or God or metaphysics, something like that. And it will stand out as relevant to me if it helps me move toward what my aspirations for value, connectedness, and meaning are, and my aspirational goals for my more wise self, into whom I hope to transform. Something should stand out as relevant to me if it helps me connect better in those two directions. And those are the things you should be concerned about. Now, the things that stand out to us as relevant or salient are often things that are hypothalamically driven, like your desire to eat, drink, sleep, mate, those kinds of things. Your hypothalamus drives you to do certain things for the survival of the individual and of the species and stuff like that. And so your progress toward those things, you sometimes, or just to have pleasure, just to relax, to not work, to, maybe laziness. Okay. Some things will stand out to you as salient if they afford your hypothalamic drive. So what we're trying to do is make sure all those drives are met and taken care of, and we have some kind of regimen and self-discipline there, so where we're not getting out of control, getting too much or too little of something. and then we take care of those needs, and then we want to consider ourselves with what is beyond those basic needs, so that you have the capacity. Because somebody who's starving, they're not going to have time to think about the relevance of, Ezekiel 23 versus Matthew 19. That they don't care about that because they're starving. That's the most pressing. The wild animal that is confronting them is not some deep philosophical thing about some nugget of truth you found in the scripture. It's just not. So you have to consider those things. But rivalrous dynamics make things salient to you that are not necessarily relevant, and they become relevant to you based on the capacity to be victorious in the rivalrous dynamic, but then it does not help you achieve your wiser second self that you are aspiring to press toward the mark to be like Jesus Christ. It doesn't help you become like that, you see? But it helps you win in this small scope of this rivalrous dynamic, where you can fit more into an in-group or persuade more people to believe your thing or that kind of stuff. So rivalrous dynamics is a type of thing, kind of like resentment, that feeds your capacity for self-deception by making things salient and seem like they're relevant that really aren't. Or maybe they're relevant to the degree that certain people are deceived by certain things. All right? So there's some relevance there, but they're not relevant in the sense of whatever it is you should be most aspiring toward. And they're not relevant to a lot of people that aren't exposed to what you've been exposed to. And I understand people have to fight different fights, and there may be something that is relevant to you, like the Calvinism thing. It's not relevant to most people, or maybe it is, but they don't realize it. Maybe it should be, all right? But they haven't realized it yet, and if we could get everybody's help, we could actually put an end to this thing and not have to worry about it. But the rivalrous dynamic causes you to think things are relevant. It causes you to misprioritize relevance. I'll put it that way. So there are 2 points of emphasis I have over on the left-hand side, and then over on the right-hand side, the gray and the blue here. In the gray, we need to engage in a non-rivalrous means of distributed cognition and collaboration to determine what to do with the Bible that we all think is true. Like, if you think the gun is true, what are you going to do with it? You think the Bible is true, what are you going to do with it? Okay? And as we're deciding we all agree this book is true, now what are we going to do with it? And that needs to be decided in a non-rivalrous collaborative way where you use distributed cognition to come together. Now, our beliefs should be more of an emphasis of this process, more so than of any certainty of any propositional conclusions that are held about metaphysical reality. So think about that. When somebody asks you, what do you believe? Instead of giving them a list of propositions, what if you said, I believe that humans should work together with distributed cognition to help each other transform into wiser people? What if you said that instead of, I believe, and then list a bunch of propositions? That'd get somebody's attention, I think. I think it would get somebody's attention. And then what you would hopefully have there is a discussion. And then that discussion starts the process. Now, let me tell you this. Engaging in non-rivalrous means of distributed cognition. In the United States, we vote. And if you've been awake for the past few weeks, you know we vote. But voting, actually, governance would be better handled if it was handled in a situation where small groups of people could make self-determining decisions where they all reached agreement and didn't have to vote. That would be the best thing to do if you could all reach agreement and not have to vote. But voting is, you think, people go right to voting when they think of free and fair governance and all this kind of stuff. But that's actually the step between everybody collaborating and agreeing, being able to come to coherence. Between that and violence, voting is the step between those things that, since we can't all agree, we agree to vote instead of fight each other. All right, so if you could somehow achieve coherence without having to get to as far as voting, that would be better. If you could achieve that, that would be better. All right, so I think that we should explore ways to share information and reach agreements with people that we consider to be in our in-group that do not that try to do so without voting. Not that people can't have a say, and if you're thinking that, you're missing what I'm saying, or I'm not articulating it clearly. But actually come to the point where everybody's on the same sheet of music, everybody understands, everybody agrees with what's best to move forward, and there's not this rivalrous dynamic in place. Over here on the right-hand side in the blue, as we're doing non-rivalrous stuff in the gray and the blue, we need to develop, and now these colors don't mean anything, it's just to help you visually separate where my ideas are floating around in my head, okay? So we need to emphasize ways when we're presenting the Bible, instead of presenting it as true, which that's an underlying assumption, right? So we don't have to state that because it doesn't practically mean anything, as we've covered. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to find ways to present the Bible as practically relevant to people who are convinced that it has no value. The demonstrated practical relevance will be stronger than any propositional truth claim. Once they put the Bible to the test and see that it works, you see that it's useful to do something, you don't have to convince somebody that it's true because it's useful. Okay? So maybe instead of saying the Bible's true, you could say something like the Bible's useful, and here's how. And that might get some people to reconsider. So what you're trying to do, they frame things in their mind in a certain way, and things have been framed in their minds for them by how things have been presented to them over the years. What you're trying to do is find ways to present things that break those frames and cause them to think. You remember those Frosted Flakes commercials? Frosted Flakes, taste them again for the first time. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get people to reconsider the scripture as a useful thing for the first time, separating it from the framing that they've already pre-concluded about it before, a brand new consideration enters their head when they encounter you. This is what you want. Now look at what Jesus said in John 7:17. If any man will do his will, notice there's no beliefs there. Let's just try it, okay? Taste and see that the Lord is good. Let's do his will, and then we will know of the doctrine, whether it be of God or whether I speak of myself. So people can evaluate the usefulness and the truth by trying it out. Hey, do these things. I'm not asking you to believe it's true. I'm not asking you to accept any metaphysical, statements of truth or not. No, so I want you to do this and see how it pans out. See if you get the promotion. See if you get the job. See if your family stays together. If see it. Check it out. Now I have these verses out of order. I have 1 Timothy 4:15 and 1 Timothy 4:8. I probably should have put them in the other order, but look at 1 Timothy 4:8. Paul tells Timothy, "For bodily exercise profiteth little, but godliness." Now he doesn't say it doesn't profit at all. Okay. But godliness is profitable unto all things, having the promise of the life that now is and of that which is to come. You see? And Christians today, we're so focused on the life which is to come, we do not explore the value of the godliness from Scripture for the life that now is. And that is, I think, the Bible's selling point. It is profitable unto all things. Now, the all things would include bodily exercise. So if you're godly, if you're not godly, you might exercise your body. And that's the only benefit you get is a better body. But if you're godly, you would also exercise your body, but other things too. You see, you become more well-rounded. You become more holistic. You get a better, your perspectival awareness can back up, and you can enjoy some metacognition and not be stuck in any particular paradigm, but you can gain parallax and approach from a lot of different angles now. That's what you do. It's profitable to all things, to life that now is and that which is to come. And I would say this, that like Paul does in Acts 17, that one of the selling points of the Bible is not necessarily to just make the claim that it's true, but to present it as profitable to people for the life that now is. You can present it as profitable in that way. That's what the Scripture says. Are we demonstrating that? You see? I don't know if they're still doing this, but there's a group called Clonade, and it's a scientific branch of this cult called the Raelians, like R-A-E-L, Raelians. This guy's name is Rael, and he started this group. They're called the Raelians. And it's a play on the word aliens, but they believe that humankind was seeded by some kind of extraterrestrial being who cloned some people and planted them here on planet Earth 30,000, 25,000 years ago, something like that. And now here we are today. And that's our origin story. And they have a whole cult based on that. But it's not just a bunch of crazy beliefs. They actually have scientific laboratories where they are trying to replicate what they think happened, and they are cloning things. So a lot of the, and I don't know, I haven't looked them up in a while. I probably should have done this before I did this video, but they are, some of the leading research for years was coming out of this cult's scientific, about cloning, leading research about cloning animals, and there's like, conspiracy theories that these guys have cloned humans even though they're not supposed to, that kind of thing. And I know that's kind of crazy and far-fetched, but there is a real-world application to their capacity to do this, all right? And then you think of things like SpaceX and what Elon Musk had going on. That's kind of getting attention. Imagine if Christians came together in such a way, and then we did something that was scientifically valuable to the entire planet. We provided information that people could use to engineer better lives somehow, right? And then we say that, well, how'd you do that? Well, the Bible gave us the tools to collaborate to do this. And then it's demonstrable. People could see that, you see? Wow, look what you did. And Christians, by and large, there are some Christians who do things good for communities, like help feed people and stuff like that, and that's great. But there's nothing outstanding, really, that Christians have done for society that other people can't and don't also do. What is it that makes us stand out? For what makes Christianity profitable to the life that now is in a distinct way to non-Bible believers? What is that? Now, I think it's possible to do that, but I don't think we've done it good so far. Done it very well so far, right? Now, look what Paul tells Timothy, 1 Timothy 4:15, meditate on these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy what? That thy profiting, same profiting is back in 1 Timothy 4:8, which is just 7 verses earlier, that thy profiting may appear to all. So the point is, for that profiting, godliness is profitable to all things, to the life that now is. That profit, that doing better as a result of, should appear to all people, should be clear. Hey, this guy's following Scripture, and look what it's doing for him. I would like a dose of that. That'd be nice to have. Hey, where'd you get that betterness from? People asking you that. Imagine how different Christianity would be at that point. So I have this example here. If you build a bridge, like your profiting appears to all, right? If you build a bridge and cars can drive on it, it actually works. People will listen to what you have to say about supposed truth claims. Now, so after you demonstrate the value of the Bible and how it is profitable to all things in this life too, in the life that now is, once you demonstrate that, then when you say something like the Bible is true, people might hear it a little differently. They might hear it like you intend it or want to intend it. It might have some value to that claim at that point, but it doesn't have any value when you just start with it, okay? Especially with the framing of today's society. So the next thing here, working together. Okay, we talked before in some of our other videos, like Awakening the Spirit series. We covered a team that worked together to rescue a bunch of 30 miners who were in Chile in 2010 when a mine collapsed and trapped 30 people down there. And they all had to work together. Nobody knew how to do it. Nobody had ever done anything like this before. They got a bunch of people together and they all collaborated. And we talked about the humility and nobody wanting to necessarily get the credit or to bolster themselves. Everybody was humble enough to let ideas come from whoever they needed to come from in order to make this happen. Nobody was trying to use this to prompt this up to say that they were the expert and needed to rank high in the hierarchy of the in-group of the rescuers. It wasn't like that. And that was the fact that kind of humble collaboration and distributed cognition worked is because it was non-rivalrous, is how the report came across. And we talked about that in some of our previous videos. So that's what this statement is here, is thinking about when I say this. Working together to rescue the miners from being trapped is to be valued higher than which rescue effort participant had the most knowledge. I know the most about rescuing the miners. Okay, great. Let's rescue these guys. Getting them out was the point, not having a little, competition about who knew the most about it. It's not about that. It's about doing it. Now, once you do it, then we'll hear what you have to say then. So, we're talking about transformation. So, genuinely transformative wisdom metamorphosis into that wise person should be valued and aspired for above and beyond semantically establishing the certainty of propositional truth claims about metaphysical reality. In other words, we can grunt and faith things into being true. Faith these propositional statements into being true. XYZ is true. Just think of all the things in the statement of faith. We believe, da-da-da-da-da. You can't faith things into being true. They're either true or they aren't. But what you can do is you can demonstrate things to be profitable, and especially if you as an individual genuinely transform into a wise person, and you can demonstrate this, and then you present the Bible as being profitable for this life that now is into being valuable to help other people transform into a wise person, we might be able to rework this evangelism game to where we're not just having a bunch of false converts because we're convincing a bunch of persuading a bunch of people of a lot of lists of propositions that we can't verify anyway, and that are all focused on the life that is to come rather than the life that now is. Okay? So there needs to be some profiting in the life that now is, and that is what makes Scripture relevant and useful, which people need to see it as relevant and useful before they're going to be willing to consider it as being true. That makes sense. And that's one of the things that I tried to do on the channel, is present Scripture as relevant and useful. And I think we're even going to change how we do things there, because I shudder at the thought of all the old school things that I've brought through and just put in the channel that I think it's time to grow past some of those things. But I've perpetuated some things that I would like to grow out of that are from legacy Christianity that is not biblical Christianity. So we want that transformation. Now, up here we talked about the rivalrous dynamics, and that's not a good idea. Up here we talked about the rivalrous dynamics, and that's not a good idea. For more information on rivalrous dynamics and some ideas on how to engage and do distributed cognition without rivalrous dynamics, see this video here to get an introduction to the concept of non-rivalrous interaction, especially hone in on Rule Omega. And that's the announcement of the Full Stature Initiative, that video. So watch that for more information on that. And you can watch we have videos, and I actually have one waiting to be published right now. Our Wednesday night Zoom meetings are where we're actually trying to do this. Okay. And it's a first stab, but it's a lot of fun. So join us for that too. So what if the Bible is true? We need to get away from that truth claim because it doesn't mean anything, because all these crazy different groups are claiming that the Bible is true and they all disagree. So we need to show how the Bible is salient and relevant because it's useful and profitable in the life that now is. That's what we need to do with Scripture so that people can come to a place where they're willing to consider that it is true. That's what we should be doing. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. May the Lord bless you, and good day.